If history has taught us anything, the Boston Bruins are not afraid to make big trades. They have traded the likes of Phil Esposito, Joe Thornton, Tyler Seguin, just to name a few. They're one of the most respected organizations in the NHL. Whether we like it or not, the Bruins are at a crossroads and must think about their future. They also must decide if Brad Marchand is a part of that future or if he even wants to be a part of the new Boston Bruins future. In this video, I'm going to cover everything that is being said around the Marchand possible extension and give my thoughts on whether the Boston Bruins should trade Brad Marchand. So buckle up, Bruins fans. I'm here to give you the latest info on your beloved Boston Bruins. If you've been liking my Bruins content, please leave me a like and subscribe. If you've already done so, thank you, and let's get into it. Last season, the Boston Bruins decided to not trade Jake DeBrusk, even though they knew he wasn't planning on re-signing with the Boston Bruins. I have no clue what the offers were on DeBrusk, but I can tell you that I said last year they should have traded him, and I still think they should have done it. I think it's different with the likes of Heinen and Forbort because I don't doubt for a minute they had intentions to re-sign Heinen, but they spent that money on Zadorov and they ran out of cap space. DeBrusk, they decided would be a trade deadline rental, even though he was already on the Bruins team. They must have thought they could do some damage in the playoffs last year and thought it was worth the risk to keep him. I honestly don't know why they thought that. I get it. I didn't see the Bruins last year as cup contenders. It turns out it wasn't. And recently, we saw Colorado decide they were going to get something for a guy that wasn't resigning instead of losing him for nothing. I know I said I'm going to talk about Marchand, but stay with me here because I think it's all relevant. The Colorado Avalanche traded one of their best players in Mikko Rantanen to the Carolina Hurricanes for Jake Drury and Martin H.S. Chicago stepped in to help them make the deal possible and sent Taylor Hall to Carolina and ate some of the cap space on Rantanen for Carolina. After this deal, it 100% makes Carolina a better team and a cup contender. They were already one before, but this really puts them over the edge. Getting Taylor Hall to play on your third line and Mikko Rantanen, literally one of the best players in the league, doesn't hurt. I also don't think Colorado got a bad return for one of the best players in the league. Colorado came to an impasse with Rantanen and couldn't come to an agreement on a new deal because he was reportedly asking for $14 million per season. Currently, McKinnon makes $12.6 million per year, and the team was supposedly making it clear they wouldn't pay Rantanen more than McKinnon. Colorado got back Natchez, who is no slouch himself. He isn't as good as Rantanen, but in 49 games this year in Carolina, he has 16 goals and 49 assists. So Colorado didn't replace Rantanen 1-for-1 with regards to production, but they got a very good player back who also has one more year on a deal at $6 million per season. It got him cap certainty and a player they hope can continue scoring in Colorado and keep them competitive. A lot of the times when you see a superstar like this be traded in return isn't much, and you can look back to the Thornton trade when Boston didn't even get close to any value. Like honestly, San Jose fleeced Boston. The Boston Bruins right now have one of their best players in Brad Marchand playing on an expiry deal and has been generating a lot of attention as of late. You can't search the name Brad Marchand without seeing countless articles talking about him being traded. Futo Shinzawa reported that an executive source said that Brad Marchand trade could occur if the Bruins think it'll help the team. In addition, Shinzawa's source said when asked if number 63 will be traded, all bets are off. Futo is one of the most tapped in Boston Bruins media members, so if he's bringing up, then there's something there. As much as I criticize the Bruins management, they wouldn't be doing their jobs if they didn't look into what the return would be for Brad Marchand. If the Bruins opt to shop Marchand closer to the deadline, there would be undoubtedly a lot of interest. He would instantly shoot to the top of everybody's trade board as the number one guy everybody wants. This is because he is still an impactful player, as he has 17 goals and 37 points in 50 games this season. In addition, his $6.125 million cap hit is affordable for everything he provides. He does have some trade protection though, as he has an 8-team no-trade list. You have to look at the teams that would be interested in him, and the other factor would be, would Marchand be interested in going to them? Marchand would command a lot in return if the Bruins decided to trade him. I'm not saying Marchand is the same player as Rantanen, but he's a huge part of this team, and if he was traded, like Rantanen, I think it would be because the Bruins don't think they can re-sign him. If the Bruins did trade their captain, it would shake up their locker room, and the city of Boston for that matter. Whether you like it or not, Brad Marchand is a surefire Hall of Famer, and wouldn't be surprised if the Bruins retired his number one day. Futo had an anonymous source say, putting Marchand on the market would also refresh the roster for today and tomorrow. One agent, granted anonymity, to discuss someone he does not represent, estimated the Bruins could net a second-round pick and a promising young NHL player under team control for Marchand. The price could rise if the Bruins retain part of Marchand's salary. It's interesting them mentioning the Bruins could get more if the Bruins retain salary. Many teams such as Colorado and Vegas, the big contenders you would think would be very interested in Marchand, are tight to the cap. If the Bruins aren't making the playoffs and can get a large return for him, they would be stupid not to retain salary. I know it would piss off the Jacobs, but to get a better return, this is something you might have to do. I mentioned those teams because I think they would be very interested in Marchand for their respective teams. I also think Marchand would be very interested in going to both of them if he was leaving Boston. Marchand has a very close ties with McKinnon in Colorado, so highly unlikely he would not be willing to be traded there. What could Colorado give back in return is another story. They do not have a first-round pick in this year's draft, but they have 2 second-round picks. A guy like Artturi Lehkonen would be a good fit in Boston. He has speed and skill, a knack for scoring goals, and a $4.5 million cap hit until 26-27. Most likely, though, Colorado wouldn't want to move someone on their roster, and maybe they might be willing to move Cal Ritchie. Ritchie, the Avalanche's first-round pick, number 27th overall in 2023, put together a dominant season with the Ottawa Generals. The 6-foot center exploded offensively, putting up career high in 80 points. 28 goals, 52 assists in 50 games. This production came alongside a strong plus-minus, plus 45, showcasing his two-way awareness. Now, if I'm the Bruins, I'm going to try and get Lehkonen, but, you never know. I'm just giving options here. These are not people that I've heard. I'm just spitballing and looking at what I would think the Bruins would want in return. When you look at Vegas, you see a Stanley Cup contender and familiarity with regards to the system they play because Marchand's former coach, Bruce Cassidy, is there. Marchand and Cassidy have a very good relationship, and there is no doubt in my mind he would want to play for him again. Vegas doesn't have any first-round picks either, but they do have their second-round pick, and they've never been shy about trading picks or players. They have young players like Pavel Dorofeyev, who is only 24 and has a ton of speed and skill to his game. He has 21 goals in 49 games this season, but doesn't have any playoff experience like Brad Marchand. He would instantly be that scoring winger with speed the Bruins need and isn't an RFA until 26-27, and he's only making $1.8 million per season. Dorofeyev would be exactly the type of player the Bruins should be trying to get on their roster from the Vegas Golden Knights. These are just examples of teams and the type of players you should expect the Bruins to command in return for Marchand if they wanted to trade him. The Bruins could very well re-sign Marchand even after trading him, like Keith Tkachuk did back in the day with St. Louis. I personally think Marchand wants to be a Bruin for life and wants to retire a Boston Bruin. I also believe my good friend Dom when he says he hears Marchand and the Bruins already have kind of got a deal done and both parties want to get it done. I don't believe they're far apart on anything with regards to term or dollar amount. I believe they're waiting for the offseason and they'll get the deal done once they see what their cap is next year and what else they can do this offseason or even at the trade deadline this year. I just don't want to rule out the team actually trading him because we know big name players can get moved. If Wayne Gretzky can be traded, anyone can be traded. I think Marchand has earned the right to decide his own fate, but the Bruins management has to be smart enough to listen to offers. What Marchand brings in the playoffs year in and year out, every team would want. I would say he's less likely to actually be traded, but that's just my opinion. I want to hear from you though. Should the Boston Bruins trade Brad Marchand if they don't make the playoffs? Or should they trade him if they don't think they can re-sign him? That's a wrap on today's video. To stay up to date on all the news surrounding the Boston Bruins, please subscribe and drop me a like. If news breaks surrounding the Boston Bruins, be sure to check out the channel. If you've already subscribed to the channel, thank you, and I'll see you next time.